Thanks for joining me again. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about the Module 2 short paper. So I really want to set the stage for this assignment. Here we're continuing to develop our definition of what sustainability is, especially through recognizing sustainability issues in our own daily lives. This writing assignment gives you the opportunity to examine some of the sustainability issues in your own daily life and to consider the impact they may be having. So let's go ahead and get started. For this paper, you're asked to write about 2 prompts that focus on the impacts an organization can have on human behavior. Here we recall that an organization is a type of system, and that as such, it has connections to other systems. So first, you're going to identify an organization to focus on. You want to pick one where you can identify the impacts the organization's practices have on human behavior. And then after describing the impacts it has on human behavior, you want to identify the behaviors it encourages and discourages by explaining how the organization accomplishes that. So I hear sometimes from students that it's picking the organization that can be the hardest part. So I want to give you an example. The example I want to share with you is an organization that's called White Oak Pastures. White Oak Pastures is a 6th generation farm. It's in Georgia. And it began as a very traditional farm and ran as one until just a few years ago when the 5th generation farmer, whose name is Will Harris, began to practice regenerative farming and land management and humane animal husbandry. The result has been a revitalization of the entire rural community, the entire community. The changes the organization made have encouraged other farmers to shift their practices to more sustainable land and animal management. And they've led to the development of a customer base that now consumes healthier products and have provided a large number of jobs to the local community, while also discouraging the use of pesticides and erosion-producing land management. So see how I did that? Now it's your turn to dig into an organization and see what you can discover. The second prompt for the assignment asks us to identify whether the organization takes an ego or eco approach to leadership by providing examples. The examples should focus on the specific behaviors that the organization uses that suggest the ego or eco approach. Then thinking about the sustainability of the organization, what practices does the organization employ that foster its ability to persist into the future? So in the case of White Oak Pastures, I think it is almost all about eco, with a tiny bit of ego thrown in. Here's why. The transformation of the farming operations from traditional to regenerative was done with the goal of the farm becoming not only carbon neutral, but actually carbon negative. Carbon negative. The ego part comes when you hear the 5th generation farmer talk about his interest in the farm continuing on to the next generations. And in fact, his daughter, so 6th generation, is already starting to take over the operations, and her children, so that would be 7th generation, are coming into the business as well. I hope that example is really helpful for you as you choose an organization. Remember, if you need help, I'm right here. Just reach out. So before we go, let's take a look at the grading rubric because I want you to be informed about how I'm going to assess your short paper. We're going to go through each row. The first row, illustration. Here I'd like you to think about how did you describe the organization you chose? How did you make the case for the impacts the organization has on human behaviors? Did you provide examples of how the organization encourages certain behaviors and discourages other behaviors? So related to ego or eco, did your explanation of how the organization uses an ego or eco approach to leadership include examples of behaviors that support the approach? How well did you assess the likelihood the organization will persist into the future? And then third, for clear communication, is your short paper clear and concise? Is it easy for the reader to follow? And does the reader understand the purpose of your writing? Now, finally, we have a new row on the rubric for this assignment, and that's citations and attributions. So are you citing your sources when needed to do so? If you've got questions about citing your sources using that APA formatting, you can visit the Shapiro Library's Cite Your Sources resource, academic support, or just reach out to me. All right, that's a wrap on this week's short paper. I hope you enjoy doing this activity. I know I'm going to enjoy reading your papers. Thanks so much, and reach out if I can help you.